A year ago, I spoke at this very summit and said, whatever you thought 2020 was going to be about, think again. I said we confronted a new, complex, hydra-headed and rapidly evolving challenge, COVID-19. On that day, a year ago, there are 113,210 cases of COVID-19 globally, across 108 countries, and more than 3,975 lives had been lost. Already at that time, even a year ago, that number of lives lost exceeded SARS and MERS put together. Today, there are more than 375,000 additional cases and 20,000 additional deaths occurring every single day around the world. Now, in recognising we were not immune a year ago, I said that we were taking decisive and timely action to get ahead of this. The National Incident Response Plan had been activated in mid-January, including standing up the National Incident Response Centre in Canberra. The Chief Medical Officer at the time, Professor Brendan Murphy, was convening daily meetings of the National Medical Expert Panel, the AHPPC. The National Security Committee of Cabinet was meeting regularly under my direction to direct our national response to the pandemic. The National Coordination Mechanism within the Department of Home Affairs had already been established to address economic and supply chain issues, particularly in critical medical equipment and supplies. And this would later be joined by the National COVID Coordination Commission to ensure greater private sector involvement, led by Nev Power. We had officially called the pandemic 2 weeks before the World Health Organisation in Australia, and we were one of the first countries to move to close our borders to mainland China. And by the close of the very week I stood here a year ago, we had announced the first of our 3 major economic responses, and we had formed the National Cabinet. We were getting ahead of this. But to stay ahead, I warned, we had to work together and continue to take decisive and timely action. Our goal, I said, was to protect the health, the well-being and livelihoods of Australians through this global crisis, and to ensure that when the recovery comes, and it will, we are well positioned to bounce back strongly on the other side. That was the mission. That is what we did, and that is what we continue to do. It has been a tough 12 months. In fact, it's been the toughest our country has seen since the Great Depression and the Second World War. But here we are, leading the world out of the global pandemic and the global recession it caused. Our health system withstood the pandemic storm. Our federation and our policy-making institutions adapted to bring about unprecedented cooperation. Business, the research and scientific and medical community and expertise from all sections of society, finance, so many, came together to support this common purpose in a national effort. But you know, above all, Australians, in millions of acts of patience, of caring, kindness and responsibility, stood up, looked after each other, did their bit and succeeded in pulling Australia through. Australia's remarkable performance in saving lives, the 3rd lowest mortality rate from the pandemic amongst G20 nations, is the first point of conversation when I speak with foreign leaders, I'm proud to say. But we've been equally successful in protecting livelihoods, better than almost every other advanced economy in the world today. The actions of government have been critical to Australia's success. At this summit a year ago, I set out the principles that would guide our government's economic response to COVID-19. Our response would be proportionate, timely, scalable, targeted. I said it would be aligned with the other policy arms, in particular monetary policy, and we had fantastic collaboration with Reserve Bank. It would use existing delivery mechanisms to avoid implementation failures of the past. It would be temporary and it would have a clear fiscal exit strategy. And wherever possible, it would favour responses that boosted productivity. They were the principles, and a year on, we have remained faithful to those principles and that strategy. And that strategy is working.